Hey,
Hello, my name is Selena.
and my name's Theoni, and you are listening to Piping Hot.
Welcome to the second episode. We made it.
Well, it's technically the third episode, Selena.
You're right. You're
I'm so
right.
sorry. To correct you right off the bat, because I'm rude.
No,
But
you're not.
yes, second topic practically, because last time we weren't expecting to do it in 2 episodes.
Yes, that's right.
I feel like I do know a little more what I'm doing this time around, so I'm really excited to do this.
Yes. I feel like we've learned so much in the past week or two, which is great. And we're learning a lot and it's been super fun.
So, Selena, what tea are you drinking this week?
Yes. So last week I drank peppermint, but this week I'm drinking stress relief from Yogi, like the brand Yogi. I don't know what the flavor is. It's great, but all that matters is that it's stress relief because it's been a freaking week.
Oh gosh. Do you feel like your stress has been relieved? Is the tea working?
I've only had like 2 sips, so I'm not sure.
You're like, give me a minute for it to sink in, and then I'll let you know where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Theody? What are you drinking today?
Yes. So my friend Helen for my birthday, she got me, it's called Lee's tea or something like that. It's like in a pink package and it comes with like an elephant on front and it's a pink chai. So it's actually
Ooh.
really good. I've never had something like this before, but I literally love it. So thanks,
That
Helen.
sounds that sounds so fancy.
It is. And you should have seen the pouch it came in. Like it was this little
Yeah.
triangle, like mesh, like I don't even know. It was really cool. I was like, oh, I felt very delicate. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you're just so fancy with your fancy tea.
Yes, yes, yes. So what happened this week? What was so stressful? Like, are you good?
I'm I'm okay. It's just been so freaking hectic. I don't when your life is falling apart and you see it falling apart, but you're just
Oh,
so exhausted that you can't even do anything about it. You're
yes.
just here for the ride. You're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
well, okay." I don't know. That's just been me. And I oh my god, work has been freaking insane. And on Tuesday, I cried over an Excel sheet that I had to
Oh,
do because I was so stressed. I don't know what I'm doing. I literally do not know what I'm doing. And
oh,
and I had to bring it to my manager obviously because she gave me the task to do it.
yeah.
And I was so stressed because again, I do not know what I'm doing and I just
Oh.
cried over it.
I'm so sorry. I That is the worst feeling, especially for people who are type A like us. It's really hard to feel like you don't know what you're doing because you just
Yeah.
want to have everything organized. You want to know what you need to do. You want to just get it done, be efficient. And when it's sitting there and then you have to ask for help, you have to figure it out. It's really hard. And I'm
Mhm.
really sorry you were so stressed. And I totally get what you mean about just watching it fall apart. And I did not mean to laugh when you were talking about that because it's not funny that you're
Yeah.
seeing your life fall apart. I'm a horrible person. But it's the way you described it. But it's very, very relatable because I mean that's happened to me so many times. So I very much understand how that's and it's not fun. And I hope that this week is better and that hopefully you can get kind of a handle on things that were happening and um yeah.
Thanks. It's really sweet. It's okay. My therapist Rebecca knows all about it.
Nice.
She's been helping me through it.
Oh, good. We love a
Yeah.
good therapist.
I know, right? What about you? You started school, right?
Yes. It's funny you say you feel like your life is falling apart because I kind of had that moment yesterday. Because I had a really long day with all of my clients for I
Mhm.
guess I don't know if people don't know this. I'm in grad school right now for mental health counseling. So, I have my own clients now. I'm trying to work with them and stuff. And I just had a really tough week with them. And sometimes you
Mm.
see them kind of I don't know, either not making the best choices or just going through something really hard. And sometimes it's really hard to feel like you're just not helping them or something, or not doing as much as I could be. And like I know that I am, and
Yeah.
I'm knowing know I'm doing what I need to do, but it's just sometimes like burnout is very real as like a therapist, you know what I mean? And I'm starting to realize that. And
Mhm.
so just trying to work through that. I was just feeling really exhausted yesterday, and then my friend called me and she's going through something really hard right now, and
Mhm.
obviously she's back in Minnesota, and it's really hard to feel like I'm not, I don't know, being able to be there for her in the way that I want to be. So, just a lot of heavy
Yeah.
stuff this week, but you know, I got organized. My little wall file things came in from Amazon, so now I feel like I don't have junk lying around. Like I'm more organized. Like I used today to like catch up on some stuff, so I'm feeling a lot better than I did, thankfully. So,
Good. That's good,
yes.
and you also took a nap earlier today, right?
Oh my gosh, I sure did. I set an alarm though because otherwise I'm convinced I like would have slept for 3 hours, but I texted Selena before we started recording and I was like, "Selena, like, are you gonna like look cute? Like, what's the situation?" She's like, "I'm just gonna put on minimal makeup." And I was like, "Okay," because I look absolutely busted right now after my nap and I need to know what level I need to get to. So aside from me looking busted after my nap, I'm just curious, what little pop culture things did you think about this week? Because I honestly don't have a ton. Maybe I need to do some more TikToking to figure it out, but I'm curious what you have for me.
Yeah, okay. I don't have as much as I did last time, but also because my life is falling apart, I haven't been on TikTok for a good while, but that's okay. That's healthy,
Mhm.
taking a
You
break.
need
But
space from social media.
oh, of course. But the big thing that I want to talk about is that Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra had a baby.
I'm shocked because especially because there were all those rumors about like her removing Jonas from her name, and like everyone
Yes.
thought, and we were talking about this. I don't think we talked about it on the podcast, but we were talking about how we feel like it might have been a PR relationship or like something like that, and all these different things we heard. So then when I heard they had a baby, I was like, what the heck? Like, are you serious?
Like, literally so left field because, again, too,
Yes.
like, everyone was like, "Oh, they're getting a divorce," because she moved, like, Jonas from her name, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Oh, they're getting a divorce," and literally out of nowhere, they're like, "Surprise, we had a baby." Like, okay.
Happy for him.
Yeah.
Like, that's great. Do you know what the baby's name is? Or have they not
No.
revealed it yet?
I don't think they've revealed it. They just made a post
Okay.
of being like, "Oh, we had a baby via surrogate,
Yes.
and we just like some privacy for now," or
So
whatever, but
interesting. Wow,
yeah.
crazy. Very
Literally shooketh.
unexpected.
I
Yeah.
I got I got a notification from, like, Apple, like, News or whatever, and it
Mhm.
was like, "Nick Jonas and Priyanka Chopra had a baby," and my jaw dropped, and I was gonna screenshot it and send it to you, but I was like, "Oh, no, I'll tell her on the podcast."
I love that your Apple, like, news
I
told
know,
you, like, as if that's the most important thing happening right now. I mean, it is
I
very
know.
important.
Okay, and then the last thing that I will say, or at least, like,
Mhm.
whatever's happening in, like, the gossip sphere,
Sure.
a couple weeks ago, the Moon Knight trailer dropped, and that's a new show on Disney Plus. Have you seen it
Mm.
yet?
I I feel like no, you know what? I haven't. I have not seen it yet. I know it's tragic because I am like a huge Marvel fan, like huge. So I can't believe I haven't seen it. Is it good? Like, are you
Yes.
excited?
Well, it has, Oscar Isaac in it, who, was in the
Yes.
Star Wars, the most recent Star Wars trilogy,
Mhm.
and I well, first of all, I love him. I think he's so great, but I'm so obsessed with, like, the story of, like, Moon Knight because I don't really know that superhero per se, but I'm
Yeah.
so excited and the trailer was so good. Like, I just wanna know more. Like, that's where I'm
Yes.
at right now.
Well, I kind of agree with you there because I don't know Moon Knight at all. I really don't know the
Mhm,
storyline. Like, I don't know anything like that. So I'm really excited to have something to watch that I literally have no idea about. I think it's like really exciting. And I think
mhm.
Oscar Isaac is such a cutie. So can't wait. Can't wait to watch it.
Yes, same. But
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
and speaking of Marvel, did you see that, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland finally did an interview all together?
I did. I
Oh,
did. It made my heart so happy.
me too. I literally watched the whole thing and was just sitting there smiling to myself because they were all just so supportive of each other, and
Yeah,
I'm just obsessed, and I can't yeah, I know we talked about this before, but that movie, I just can't believe how big it is, but anyways,
I
I loved
know.
seeing that interview.
It was literally so wholesome, just,
Mhm.
like, seeing all of them interact because 'cause they're, like, from different generations of, like,
Yeah.
Spider-Man, but, like, they're just, like, so both not both, all of them, like, all 3 of them, their, Spider-Man films are just, like, they're so precious, and I feel like they
Yes.
all have, like, their own sentimental value and stuff, like,
Yeah.
Toby for sure being, like, the first Spider-Man, and Andrew well, obviously just Andrew, like, what else do I need?
Enough said.
Yeah, and then Tom with, like, the MCU, so, yeah, it was super cute.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but I'm very ready to just, like, dig into the love hypothesis because I not that I forgot how good it was, but, like, rereading it to, like, do the notes for this, I, like, couldn't stop giggling to myself, like, my roommate literally came and knocked on my door, and she was like, "Why are you giggling?" And I was like, "I'm just reading a book." And it just happened to be a certain chapter, which shall be discussed later, but, yes.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, if you're watching the podcast right now, like, I can't stop smiling, like, my cheeks hurt because 'cause I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I've literally I've gotten 4 people to read this book now, and I'm
Shut
so
up.
excited. Yeah. And I'm so excited to finally talk about it because I need someone to talk about it
I know, right?
with.
I literally need to just, like, get it out of my system.
Yeah.
Um
I was gonna say maybe before we dive in, do we wanna give listeners kind of like a background on like our reading habits and stuff? Because like I know like
Oh,
I'm a really avid reader, but I know
sure.
you have like recently gotten into like romance novels, which is why I recommended The Love Hypothesis to you.
Yes, okay, so I honestly the last book I read before I recently started again a few months ago was, like, years ago, like, I was like, "I
Mhm.
hate reading," like, I don't like it," or whatever, but then my roommate is, like, a very avid reader, kinda like you, and she
Mhm.
convinced me to read this one book. I forget which book it was. I don't know. She bought me some random one. I forget which one it
Mhm.
was, but I read it and it was like a contemporary romance. And I was like, I literally loved it. And so then, she would be like, want to come to Barnes and Noble with me? And I was like, oh, sure. And then I would like buy books. And now I'm just like on a roll. And I haven't branched out again from contemporary romance, but like
Mm.
I'm loving that spot right now. So that's like my reading right now.
Contemporary romance is like huge right now, which like I'm not surprised because we've been in this like parallelogram for like 2 years now.
Parallelogram?
So yeah.
Wait, how did you choose that shape?
Wait, have you seen that TikTok where it's like you don't say pandemic, you say anything but pandemic? Have you seen
No.
that? Wait. Wait.
That's why I was like, "Why the heck are you saying
Wait, no.
parallelogram?" I was like, "What?"
No. Okay, wait. After this podcast, I'm
Okay.
gonna send you a TikTok because it's like people using different words than the pandemic to describe the pandemic. It is like there's like it was like parallelogram. I think there was like another like math one that people were using and like just
Oh,
like random stuff. It's
that
so funny.
okay, I know I'm gonna love it because that reminds me of this one older YouTube video where this guy is like mispronouncing or like reading YouTube comments where these people would misspell pregnant and then it was like
Yes.
fregante or pregnant or like
Wait,
random things and it's so funny.
wait, because of that video, I do not say pregnant like
Shut
correct
up.
anymore. I say pregarnant or I say like whatever it just like as a joke. I say it wrong so that then I can like see if people get the joke or not. Like if they've seen the
Yes,
video yet. Like
very important.
yes. Yes.
That's so funny. Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
mm.
Um,
Anyway,
your
as I
reading
was
habits.
saying,
Yes.
my reading habits. But, contemporary, romance has been huge because, like, everyone needs, like, an outlet, and, there's just been, like, so many different, like, rom-com novels coming out and stuff. For me, I've, like, always loved reading, but I
Yeah.
only read young adult fantasy, and it wasn't
Ooh.
until when the pandemic hit, I, like, branched out to, like, different genres because I was like,
Ah.
"Okay, well, not that, like, I don't like young adult fantasy anymore, it's just, like, I can only take so
Well,
much."
of course. It's like
Um
and book burnout is very real, right? So
Oh, yeah.
it's like and you can still like that and you can always go back to it, but it's kind of fun to like branch out, I feel like. I'm gonna have to get to that soon. So
Yes, yeah, well, I have all the recommendations, so
you're like,
hit
let
me
me
up.
know.
I heard about The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood through TikTok because obviously I'm on BookTok, and I
Mhm.
was like, I don't read contemporary romances, but everyone literally will not shut up about this book. And I was like, okay, I have to buy it and I have to see like what it's all about.
Yes.
And I just loved it that I had to tell literally everyone in my life to read it. I told my older sister to read it and she finished it in like 2 days. I told my other friend to read it and she also finished it in 2 days. And Theoni, how fast did you finish The Love
I
Hypothesis?
think did I finish it in a day? I think I
Yes,
finished
you did.
it. I did.
Listeners, I went to bed at like 11, and at 6 p.m. that night, Theoni had texted me saying that, she was 50 pages in, and I was so excited for her, right? I wake up to a text from her at 3 a.m. saying that she's on page like 200 something, and I was like, girl, it was literally the text was literally like, "I know you're sleeping, but I just have to tell you that I'm on page like 200 whatever, and it's so good, I haven't stopped." And then I texted her again when I woke up at like 9 a.m. the next morning. I was like, "Theoni, like, did you finish it?" And she's like, "Yes."
I literally though, now that you say that, I totally forgot that I finished it that fast, but I mean, it's so addicting and like each chapter gives you a little nugget that you're like, I have to keep reading. Like I have to.
Yes.
And like
Yes.
at if you guys haven't read it, at the beginning of each chapter, there's something called like a hypothesis, and it'll give you just like a little random thing that'll key you
Yes.
into what the chapter is about. So if you even look at the beginning of a chapter and read it, you're like, now I have to read the whole chapter. It's literally so good. I
It's
can't
yes.
say enough, you know?
Also, by the way, if you haven't read The Love Hypothesis yet, like, maybe, listen to this episode later and then go read the book and then come back and freak out with us because I don't wanna spoil anything from you because I think you should read this book with no spoilers because it's so good. Before Theoni starts, I wanted to tell you something about this book. Did you know that it was a
Oh.
fanfic for Kylo Ren and Rey from Star Wars?
I did know that because oh my gosh, and I which I think is so crazy because okay, something funny about it, the characters on the cover don't necessarily match at all what I feel
No.
like they are described as in the book, but the characters on the cover look more like, what's his name? I'm not a big Star Wars person. Ray
Um,
and
Kylo Ren.
yes, and the
Mhm.
fact that the main character's name is Adam,
Adam?
as in Adam Driver, okay. Don't
Yes!
dare tell me that that wasn't on purpose. It was, like,
Oh
shut
my gosh.
the heck up.
Oh my gosh. I went into it knowing that it was a fanfic, so I was, like, trying to draw, like, comparisons, being like,
Oh,
"Okay, well, I obviously know that, like, Adam is, like, technically Kylo Ren and, like,
mhm.
Olive is Rey," so I was trying to draw comparisons and, like, I mean, there was some more so with Adam, but, like, I couldn't really find anything particular for, like, Olive and Rey, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Okay, so that's, like, good to know because I didn't know it was, like, based off of, like, a fanfic from
Yeah.
when I started reading it, and I don't know the story that well, so I kinda got in like, to go in with fresh eyes, but I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, what fanfic it was based off of, because maybe there would be more comparisons to that versus just the characters.
So, Ali Hazelwood writes fan fiction, and she wrote
Oh.
Kylo Ren and Rey fan fiction, and she
Oh.
pulled from parts of her fan fiction online to come up with the love hypothesis.
That's amazing. I love that. I literally love that. What the heck?
Right? Like, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. I so clever. Literally so clever.
I mean, we're already so very excited, so we should maybe possibly jump in, right?
Okay. Alrighty. So for each chapter, we're gonna just do like a brief synopsis and then we'll like go into it. So first I have the prologue. So here's the little synopsis I wrote. The prologue sets up the entire rest of the book. You meet Olive, the female protagonist, who is just about to interview for grad school. She is nervous and doubting herself, but who wouldn't be? When she finds herself in the bathroom because of years long expired contacts, she meets the guy. I can't, I'm already giggling. Although she can't see him, she takes note of his deep voice and his ability to surprise her. The guy pushes her to come up with a reason why she wants to go to grad school in the first place, and she finds herself opening up. By the end of the chapter, we find the guy giving all of the reassurance she needed to push through the rest of her interview. The prologue ends giving us a sneak peek into the next chapter as Olive was accepted to grad school. So,
Oh my god, that was such a good, concise synopsis. Mine is not that good, you guys. Mine is not that good.
I think it's because I was like rereading it as I wrote it. I don't know. I think I was just so excited. I was like, I need to do this. So here's the first thing that I like noticed. Right off the bat, Olive was so relatable. Like I just the way that she reacted to things, the way that she described things, the way she got emotional. I'm in grad
Yes.
school. At the time like in the prologue she's 23, I'm 24. Like I was just like of course immediate I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like we're so alike." Like but like I don't know. I just so right away I was loved her.
No, I agree 100%. 'Cause I don't know why. Maybe it's like Ali Hazelwood's like writing style or whatever, or like Olive's voice that Ali writes in.
Mhm.
But Olive was just like literally so relatable. I
Yes.
loved her. And the prologue pulled us in immediately. And like I think it's so funny because one of the things that I think is like relatable, or at least to me personally, is like the expired contacts. Because when I was in college, I was so poor that I would also wear them for a really long
Oh,
time. And I was like, oh, girl, I know your pain. I know your pain.
oh my gosh, that's so funny that you have like
Yeah.
that's like a very specific similarity. You're like right off the back, you're like, "Girl, I know your pain." Like I
Yeah.
know it.
Yeah.
um the way that we're introduced to the guy in quotes was so vague that automatically I was like, "Who is it? I need to know more." Like
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that like I love a slow burn and like I love not
Hmm.
knowing everything right away, but I also hate it in the moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say that, like, the second he walked in and the second we got, like, the description of, like, oh, his voice was low and, like, da da da, all that, I knew. The second I knew, I was like, this is the guy that she's gonna fall in love with. I just
Mhm.
know it. And,
Yeah.
like, it's so convenient that she, like, can't see him, but he can see her.
I
Like, it was,
know.
again, it was just, like, perfect for a rom-com, and I, like, loved it so much.
Oh my gosh, I love when they set it up like that. It's so good. Um,
Yes.
I I love that she got like she was almost getting irritated and like I love how there would be dialogue and then we would get like the paragraphs about like what her mindset is like going through and like I
Yeah.
love when she was thinking about like oh why does he keep saying it's his bathroom and like all of these different things and like my note literally says he um because little do you know um and okay, what did I write? I said on page 6, the guy responds to her insecurity with a question, which was completely unexpected to her. And I think that that just like made me root for that right away because already he was like surprising her and like all of these things. And I was like, okay, we love a good relationship that like challenges each other. And I feel like we got
Yeah.
like a little nugget of that right away. Um,
It was their meet cute, you know? Like,
mhm.
even though, like, Olive didn't
Mhm.
know who it was, it was, like, their meet cute, and it's like,
Yes, exactly. And then I guess the last thing I have for that, is there's this one line that says that she says, "I can hear him smiling." And that I just loved it so much because I was like, "That's so cute." Like,
Mhm.
because it's so true. You can hear when someone's smiling, right? And I think I don't know, I just thought that was I don't know. I don't know why I had to pinpoint that, but I just think it's so cute.
Yeah, no, and again, I think it's to, like, Ali Hazelwood's writing is that, like, she
Mhm.
took away Olive's vision, so, like, we had to, like, get to know this, like, mysterious guy with all of her other senses, and again, I think it was just, like, so creative, and I think that's
Mhm.
why I was, like, pulled in so quickly with this
Mhm.
book.
Yes, I totally agree. But that kind of leads us into chapter 1. So I'm going to read you a little synopsis. We'll see if it flows as well as the first one did. Okay. Chapter 1 is where Olive meets Dr. Adam Carlson in a crazy turn of events where she kisses him in the hallway because he was the random person who happened to be there, just because she wants her friend not to feel badly about dating someone she went on dates with. You get to see how Adam pushes Olive in an interesting way and see her regret her options. The way Olive thinks is also on display in this chapter due to her going back and forth between knowing what she did was wrong, but also enjoying it, even if she doesn't want to. So.
Theody, these descriptions are so good, I feel so insecure now, like, I don't wanna do my
No!
chapters anymore.
Stop! But they will be so great. Don't even worry about it, girl. You're so fine. Okay, this is a very y- throughout my chapters, of course, like I have bigger things to say, but a lot of it is just little reactions to, like I already said, Ali Hazelwood's writing because the way she writes things literally makes me like die. Like I don't know how else to describe it. So the first one, um, so obviously like when they finally kiss, like in the hallway, like out of surprise, she describes him as like holding her waist or something, or like holding
Mhm.
her, and she
Yeah.
describes it as not like too high or too low, but just so. I don't know why that little two words, I was like, he's holding her just so. Like, I don't even know, like, I actually oh, I love it.
I again, it's the first chapter and I'm already dying. Like, I'm like, "What is happening?" Well, okay.
Literally.
So, I will say though, when I first read chapter 1, I was like, "What is happening right now?" Like, I was so disoriented, I was like, "I don't what's happening?" And then it slowly, like, dawned on me that she's like, "Oh, she's kissing someone right
Mhm.
now." Like, holy crap. But I agree that, like, Ellie Hazelwood's, like, descriptions is so good, and it's, like I think in chapter 1, she says that, like, it's, right on her ribs, right, or
Yes.
something, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because that will come, like, into play later.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, you guys. Like, if you're listening, I'm literally
We're never gonna get through this episode.
literally
I'm, like, crying right now. We're
literally,
never
me too. This is gonna be a problem. I I don't
Oh
know
my
how I'm
god.
gonna get through the book, I really don't. Oh my
Oh my
god.
gosh.
Okay.
Whew.
Okay. Whew. Okay. Anyways. I can't I don't know if I'm, like, half tired or it's literally just this book that, like, makes me actually lose control. Like,
I think it might be both.
I think it's both. I think it's both. Okay. Moving. Deep breaths. Okay. Um, okay, so so I one of the things that I love most in this book is like the push and pull of like every interaction, right? So like especially in this first moment where they first like kiss and like pull away, Olive's like battling with like I kind of enjoyed that, but I really shouldn't be doing that and I need to never do that again. And so it's just like that push and pull just like makes me want it to happen more. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
I love her thought process. And I feel like that's very much on display in this chapter. Um and then I love when she literally says, fuck her life," as if that isn't, like, all of our inner dialogue when
Yeah.
we do something that, like, we don't like or, like, is regretful, and that's, like, she is realizing that Adam is Dr. Adam Carlson, so one of,
Mhm.
like, the big professors there and all of these things, and she just has a moment of, like, "What have I done?" And like you said earlier, it's like she didn't really know what was happening at first, but then that moment when it sets in and she describes him as, like, a known ass and just, like, goes through all of the reasons why he's not a good person, I was like, "Oof, oof."
Yeah, and again, I think too, it shows that, like, Olive is so impulsive, like, she just
Mhm,
kinda, like, acts before she thinks, and I love that about her
mhm.
sometimes, but, like, I think it's great that, like, this was the first chapter that we saw of her, like, thinking or not thinking, of her, like, acting before thinking, and
Yes.
I just think it's so funny because it's such a huge thing that, like, happens.
Yeah. No, 100%. So, there's this one part where I literally, like, wheezed out loud on page 12. He goes, "Did you just kiss me?" And she goes, "Nope." And I was like, I think he knows that that's exactly what just happened. Like, "Honey,
Yeah.
come on now."
You can't lie your way out of this, you literally
Literally.
just kissed him.
Like, and it's like at that moment, she's doing everything she can to, like, not feel the gravity of, like, what just happened, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I just love the way that they're bickering about, like, the Title IV complaint and, like, how she shouldn't have done that, which, like, I think is, like, so funny throughout the book, but I just love that right away that even though they're both probably, like, so nervous and, like, what's going on, they have that, like, rapport of, like, bickering and, like, pushing each other's buttons, and I love that.
I think Ali Hazelwood did such a great job with their banter, which again, I think is the reason why I love this book so much. It's so natural, but so funny and like so
Mhm.
believable. Like, I just, oh my God, I was obsessed with it.
I was too, I was too. Uh, um, and okay, so one of the biggest things that and I'm sure you'll talk about this more too, is just like why did Olive go to those lengths to just not talk to her friend about something that could have been so simple? Like, and I think that you realize in the first chapter that like her intentions are pure. She really does just want to like do the best for people. But
Hmm.
I'm just like, girl, did you have to like create such a big lie just for something so simple? Like I don't know. I was just like, girl, what are you getting yourself into?
Oh yeah, no, I I get into it in chapter 2 because that was a really big thing for me
Mhm,
as I like began the novel. Like that was like a very like nitpicky thing that like
mhm.
did annoy me, but
It does set up for a great story, but, like,
yeah.
it is very annoying.
Yeah.
Um, and then okay, so I'm gonna read so I have my notes over here to the side for people watching, for people listening. I'm just gonna read what I wrote for this note. So on page 16, he asked her if she's actually sorry about the kiss, and she just completely blows past it. And that was him, like, part of him, I think, wanted her to say that she didn't like regret it or anything and he wants that validation, but then she literally just like runs away and I was like, talk to him, like he's literally calling after her like, Olive, Olive, and I'm just like, go talk to him. And I know it's all about timing and like whatever, but in that moment I was like, oh my gosh, like just talk to him, you know.
I was just gonna say that I would have ran away. Like, that conversation at the end that they had wouldn't have even happened if it were me. I would have just, like, ran.
Literally. Literally, like, the fact that she was able to talk to him at all after that blew my mind. I wouldn't even
Yeah.
have known what to do with myself. Um, and something I was thinking about, which you tell me if I'm getting this wrong, but she didn't really introduce herself to him, but he knew her name.
Yes, yes, literally. Oh my gosh, that part kills me that they didn't introduce each other,
I
but
know.
somehow he knows her name.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's literally crazy.
Yeah.
But that's how the chapter ends, and I just think like already I'm just like, okay. putting two and two together and like wanting to see them figure it out. So I'm really curious about kind of what happens next.
Yes. Okay. Going on to chapter 2. This is a really long chapter, so just bear with me, but we get like into the plot now after, that wonderful introduction in chapter 1. My notes are a little different from Theody's, so just bear with me.
That's okay. We both but that's what I like. We read it differently, we're gonna analyze it
Yes.
differently, like, it's all
Yes.
good.
Okay. Into chapter 2. So, like I said before, we get more like into the nitty-gritty plot and we
Mhm,
get more background on our main character, Olive. So, we find out that Olive Smith is a PhD student at Stanford University in the biology department, and her research focuses on pancreatic cancer. We see that she's like struggling to find a larger cancer research lab where she could spend her next academic year to collect the data she needs for her research. And so she's like emailing all of these professors across the country to see if they have room for her. So we finally have kind of like a problem for the book.
yes.
Then, lo and behold, she gets one response out of the many that she sent from a professor named Tom Benton at Harvard University, basically saying that like her research is like super interesting and he's actually visiting Stanford in a couple of weeks so then they can chat then. And
Mhm.
she's so excited, which like she should be because that's
Yeah,
super super exciting.
yeah.
But then she goes to the break room where she runs into her roommate, Anne, right? So
Mhm.
Anne was in the first chapter who Olive was trying to avoid. And because they're there, Anne's like, I saw you and Adam together the other night and accuses Olive of like avoiding her, which Olive is avoiding her, but doesn't admit to it. And it goes back to the fact that you mentioned that like the way that Olive's plan is unfolding literally doesn't make sense, and it's such a roundabout way to go about it, like,
Literally.
she's, like, lying to Anne about
Mhm,
her feelings for, like about Anne and her, like, ex-boyfriend Jeremy dating, but then
mhm.
in order for Anne to get her to believe her lie, she enters a fake dating relationship with Adam, and it, like, doesn't make sense.
Why don't you just, like, sit down with your friend and be like, "Hey, like, I really don't have feelings for this person, like, I want you to date them, like, I think you guys could be really good together, like, go
Yeah.
for it." And, like, after that, if someone decides not to do something about it, then that's kind of on them, like, you're
Yeah.
saying what you need to say, and, like, I do, like, appreciate and it's so funny you say "and" because I, like, read it as "on." I don't know why. So, I don't know.
Oh my
So,
goodness,
I'm
really?
curious. Yes, so I'm curious, like, what way it was supposed to be pronounced. It probably is Anne, but, I think, like, nice that Anne was trying to be loyal, but I'm also like, "Girl, just say what you need to say and do what you need to do, and trust
Yeah.
that, like, you guys are gonna tell each other if someone needs to be worried about something." Like
Yeah, and then what's even more annoying is that, like, Olive literally has the internal struggle, like, we read her internal struggle about lying to Anne, and on page 23, she says, "It would have been so easy to confess the truth." Then just do it.
literally, like, what?
Like, oh my gosh. Okay, anyways, then we get like literally 2 pages about background on Anne and Olive's relationship, diving
Mhm.
into how like Olive was alone for most of her academic career until Anne came along. And she's been like a really, really big support system for Olive. And on page 26, Olive says Anne was her person, family. Olive hadn't even thought that was possible for someone like her. And I know it says a lot about Anne and Olive's relationship together, but it also says a lot about Olive too. Like this statement
Yeah.
sounds that Olive like doesn't believe that she's like worthy of love, and it's like it's so sad because I mean it's such a beautiful relationship that she has with Anne, but it's like
Yes.
at the core of it there's something deeper, like there's like a wound
Yes.
there, which we'll get to later in the book, but like it made me really really sad.
No, 100%, and I'm really glad that Ali Hazelwood made a point to, like, give that a full 2 pages and give them, like, a really
Mhm.
good backstory and meaning to the friendship because I feel like in a lot of books they kind of just say, "Oh, and I have a friend who like blah blah blah," and they don't really make you root for that friendship or understand that friendship. And
Yeah.
I think the fact that like you get all that backstory and like understand how much they like mean to each other is so important, I think,
Yeah.
for like the rest of the book. And so I really like that. But it does make me sad. Like, I don't know, when I read a character who just like cannot understand like how great they are, like really just does not view themselves well, it makes me really
Mhm.
sad because we've all been
Yeah.
there. I'm not
Yeah,
even gonna
no.
say what I'm thinking about because I'll say that later.
I
And I
know,
know
like
you're thinking about it too because I just saw you smile.
I know, I'm like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, I can't say it. I can't say it. I can't. Okay. Anyways. So before Olive can even utter another stupid lie, guess who enters the scene? The one and only Dr. Adam Carlson. He he comes up behind her like they're a couple, and somehow some way he like understands like what's happening between Olive and Anne, and then just like magically plays along with Olive's lie. Okay, and yes, I know, like, this man is a doctor, and I shoulda have more faith in him that he was smart, but this was, like, a really smart move on his end, and I was like, "Damn, like, you know how to read social cues."
Yes. No, I was so I love that he caught on to that. I really, really love that he caught on to that,
Yeah.
and I love that you can, like, read Olive's surprise with it, but it really exemplifies their whole relationship about
Mhm.
how I don't know, he just, like, knows what she needs, but I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
say any more about that. But anyways, what else are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that then there's, like, a whole paragraph. There's this whole paragraph about, like, how intense his gaze is on Olive's, and it's kind of weird, but I dig it, and, like, that's why I read romance novels,
Mhm.
because it's like, I know what I'm getting, and I want it, and it's,
Yeah.
like, a whole paragraph of, like, his gaze, you know?
I know sometimes I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, that's a lot," but I love it. I do love it,
Yes,
just like you.
and I think you kinda said this too, but, like, it's crazy because, this is chapter 2. We can already see kinda, like, how Olive is so giddy around him.
Mhm,
Because at the end of this, like, paragraph when they're, like, staring at each other, she rambles about all of these, like, research topics that she could pursue
mhm.
to, like, distract herself, and it's, like, very clear that she's, like, trying to distract herself from
Yes,
something, and it's just, like, I think it's so funny because, like, we already see it's chapter 2, and we already see it happening.
literally, and that happens so much where she rambles and just, like, is trying to do anything to distract herself from what's going on.
Yeah.
It's like constantly she just, like, cannot admit to herself when things are happening. It's so funny.
Like we know, Adam is already amazing at this whole fake dating thing. When
Mhm.
he interrupted their conversation, he put his hand on Olive's lower back, and eventually it lowers even more. On page 28, it says, because she was sure that from Anne's angle, it looked like he was groping her. But in fact, he was not. Olive could barely feel his hand on her. We love a respectful man, okay?
Yes, literally, oh my gosh. I swear to gosh, he's the most respectful person, and, like, yeah, we love a respectful man, that's all I
I
can say
know,
about that.
right? Like I'm already obsessed, and it's chapter
Mhm.
2, page
Yes,
frickin' 28, you
and
know?
that's why
Like,
this book is so good, like, you're hooked right away.
oh my god, and then sorry, okay. And then, let's not forget the first question that leaves his mouth when Anne finally leaves the room. He says, "Is everything okay?"
He just wants to make sure she's okay, like, he just cares. He just does.
It Oh my god, and it just, like ugh, that's why, like, I feel I'm, like, so giddy right now too, because it's, like, it's so clear that he, like, cares for her, and
Mhm,
I think this is why I fell so quickly in love
mhm.
with Adam because he's, like, caring, really, really caring for
Mhm.
those people that he cares about. But,
Yes.
also I think too that, like, Adam is very much the trope of, like, I hate everyone but her. Like, I
Mhm.
hate everything around me, but I'll do anything for her. And I love it. I love that trope.
I love that trope too because it just and then you always get like backstory about why that might be or like more about that and I just love that because I love when all the focus is like the relationship in the way that the the guy just like feels like the girl is so special and he like doesn't know why but he just like has to put his focus on her. Like
Yes.
it makes me happy.
Yes. And then, we get their like infamous reoccurring jokes, which like I loved their inside jokes
Mhm.
throughout this entire novel. Like it made me laugh so much, and the way that they brought it back, I just thought was like so cute. Olive says that it's interesting that no agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation have knocked on my door to arrest me in the past 72 hours. And then get this. His mouth twitched at the joke, minimally, but Olive notes that it was still there, which, like, makes me so happy.
Well, that's what I love because, automatically they describe him as very, like, non-emotional, doesn't
Mhm.
smile, like, a hard ass about everything, and the fact that she can even get, like, a twitch out of his mouth is, like right away that, like, that's something, like, special that only she would be able to do, really,
Yes,
and
yes.
I love that.
So she thanks him for, like, covering for her when, like, Anne mentioned about, like, this past weekend, but then he quickly shows a side of him that, like, everyone knows him for, like the
Mhm.
smart ass, the professor who has, like, no time for your bullshit. As he says to Olive on page 29, "You shouldn't need someone to step in." And then he has the audacity to lecture her about lying to her friend and like what she's basically doing to Anne. Like, obviously I don't agree with like what Olive is doing, but dude, stay in your lane. You have a role to play
Literally!
and you're going to stay there. Even though I love you already, but just stay there.
Oh my gosh, honestly though, because I'm just like, you're playing along. You don't have to play along. So you better
Right?
not play along and then criticize for her for it.
Yeah.
Like, you're
No, yeah,
wrong
no.
for
That
that
was
one.
definitely annoying,
Ugh.
but I
Yeah.
still loved him. So, um
Oh yeah, it doesn't change a thing.
oh no. And then, get this, Olive introduces herself to him again because, like, she hasn't had Adam as a professor, but, like, obviously her friends have had him and, like, she's heard enough about him to, like, know who he is and, like, what his deal is.
Mhm.
And then he goes, "Oh, I know who you are." "Excuse me? How? How? Sir,
How?
how?" How? Tell me. I mean, okay, I obviously know the answer, but I'm not gonna say it, but at the moment, I was like, that's interesting."
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was like, well, I forget what it says in the chapter, but like, what does she think about that? She's probably like freaking out internally. Like, how does he know who I am?
No, I don't know. No, I think her, like, rationalization of it was like, "Oh, maybe he looked me up in, like, the
Sure.
student directory or whatever." I think that's what she rationalized, which I think is the dumbest rationalization, but anyways.
Sh she will do anything to rationalize something. It never makes sense, but
Yes.
she yeah.
No. You're right, you're right. Um, and then oh my god, then there's, like, such a weird conversation that happens after this between them where, like, Adam is like, "Oh, you should probably call me Adam, if Anne's around," and he's like, "Oh, I'll walk you to your car in case Anne's around," right? This felt super weird to me because, again, we're being told that he's, like, an ass. Like,
Mhm.
he is so, so mean, but right now, he seems very, like, caring about Olive's
Yes.
situation, which I obviously know why, and I'm not gonna say it, but, like, it's, like, so weird for me to, like, read it so early in chapter 2 and be
Yeah.
like, "Is he really an ass, though?" Like, I just, like it was interesting that, like, Ali Hazelwood was, like, pulling us 2 different ways
Mhm.
throughout this entire book.
No, 100%, and I think she was kinda smart for that though, because I think it adds more dimension to his character because I feel like if he had been nice to everyone, like, the tension wouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And again, it's just that, like, trope where, like, the guy is only nice to one person, and it's the girl that he likes, and
Yes,
I just
yes.
like, "Let
I
me
love
walk
it.
you to your car." Okay.
Yes.
Screaming, crying, throwing up.
Throwing up.
Like, oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, so that's how that scene ends, and then there's another scene with Olive and Anne walking to class, but
Mm.
that's not really important. And then in the next
Wait,
scene
they walk to class? That's crazy. Sorry.
right?
I'm
Right? Oh
so
my
rude.
gosh.
Sorry.
And then the next scene, we see Olive in a coffee shop answering more emails from Tom Benton and his plans to come visit Stanford because him and a professor at Stanford actually won a big grant recently. So, like, that's why he's visiting to figure out all the details. While Olive is in the shop, people keep staring at her and she finds it really, really weird.
Mhm.
Then Olive goes to a TA meeting and people stare at her there too. People who like normally don't talk to her, they're talking to her
Mhm.
and they're being super nice. And her professor asks if there's like anything Olive wants to talk about. It isn't until she runs into her friend Malcolm that everything clicks. Turns out everyone knows that she's dating Adam Carlson. Stop right there. This is another thing that irked me because I'm like, you're on campus in a grad program. I
Mhm.
feel like you would know everyone, even if the school is big, like you know people in your program. Word
Yeah.
travels fast. Why did you think it was going to be like a secret? What were you expecting?
Literally though. Like, especially since it's not just like a teacher relationship or two students dating. It's like a student and a professor. Obviously, she's not his student, but like I of course people are going to hear about it.
Yes, and people are going to talk about it, you know? So I just,
Mhm.
it was so weird that she was like, oh my goodness. So then Olive rushes to Adam's lab and is basically like, we need to talk. And she tells him that everyone in the department knows. And while saying this, Adam is like weirdly calm. I was very confused about his reaction because I was like, dude, you're dating a grad student. Shouldn't you be freaking out too? Like
Literally.
I don't understand. And then as, like, she's talking, Olive comes up with this, like, really sloppy plan, of, like, retracting everything that happened and how they're not dating and blah, 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 you know, how she kinda goes on. And then Adam, as he is, pokes holes in it saying, like, "Well, what is Anne and, like, what's his face going to think then if you, like, retract all of this stuff?" Their conversation after this literally cracks me up because Adam has such dry humor. Like, he's funny.
Yes.
He's so funny, and, like, I loved all his jokes.
Mhm.
So Olive is saying that, like, they could say that she broke up with him, and he says that's flattering. So Olive proposes that they could say he broke up with her, and he says, "Oh, that sounds very credible." And then he goes on to be like, "Let's announce our breakup in the department newsletter or make an announcement before a seminar." Like, he's such a smart ass, but, like, I love him so much.
I love it too. But that's what I mean. It's just like he loves to push her buttons because it's like right away he knows like how she thinks and like rationalizes everything and is like will do
Yes.
like very impulsive like you said before. And I just love that he's like, "Bro, take a step back. That makes no sense." You know? Like
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. And then you know what surprised me though
Mm,
in this chapter? It was Adam who proposed that they go on to their like fake dating thing.
mm,
I was so surprised because I was like, what do you have to earn with this fake dating? Like, clearly Olive needs this more than you do. So I was like very surprised
mhm.
to have him propose it.
Yeah.
And then on page 45, he even says, like, seems like a win win to me.
Mhm.
How? Please tell me. Like, how is this a win-win for everyone? Like,
Literally.
I don't understand. He's still explaining it, and Olive asks if he's, like, married or something, and then he goes, "My wife and twins won't mind." It's so funny.
As
So
if,
fu
like, he wouldn't have mentioned that already, like
I kn
Olive.
I know, like,
Girl.
he's joking. Can you not t oh my god, it's so funny because then she freaks out. She's like, "Oh my gosh," and Adam tells her that, like, he's joking, obviously. Another trope that I love that they don't Ali Hazelwood doesn't really play on it in this book, but I think I can still see the trope. I love the trope when, like, the main characters use, like, the last name to address each other all the time, and then they in the heat of the moment, in a very serious or intimate scene, they use their first name for the
Yes!
first time, and then when Adam says, "You really need to start calling me Adam," on page 44, it reminds me of that trope. Even though it's kinda, like, opposite for them, I just love it so
No, I
much.
love it too because it does mean something. It's showing like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, you actually have a relationship now, you know?
Yeah. So finally, Adam reveals like what his plan is and like why he proposed this like whole fake dating thing in the first place.
Mhm,
He says that he's considered a flight risk at Stanford, which basically means that the department thinks that he's going to leave, so they have frozen his research funds. And it doesn't help that he was like awarded a huge grant with another scientist at a different institution, and because he doesn't have like roots in Stanford, he can really just leave anytime.
mhm.
But with the girlfriend, it'll show Stanford that he's starting to put roots down and like he's not going to move. Which when I heard that, I was like, "Oh, that actually kind of makes sense."
It
Like I
does.
right? Yeah.
Which I think that if he hadn't come up with something that credible, then Olive would have been sus of that, but I think it was, like, the perfect way to, like, make it make sense, even though it
Yeah.
makes no sense, you know?
Yeah. And then the most annoying thing I think in this book, and I think it's what kind of like snapped me into like, oh, this is fiction. This is like 100% fiction, is that they glaze over the fact that she's like a grad student and he's a faculty member. And that it wouldn't be too hard to date because he doesn't like oversee anything that she does. And like again, they just like glossed over it and I was like,
Because
okay, I don't
I still feel like that would be a problem in a grad program because
yes.
I just if it were like a huge university and there was like a TA and a person, like a student, and they were like not in classes or whatever, then maybe that would be okay. But it's a grad program. Like everyone works so closely that like there's no way that everyone's like, oh, that's fine. Like just shake it off. Like
That's what I'm saying. It's like they just glazed over it, and
mhm,
again, it's like, okay, well, it's a fiction book, so
yeah.
like obviously
Yeah.
whatever Ali Hazelwood wants to do, she can do. But like that definitely like kind of irked me. I was
Mhm.
like, I need reasoning.
Yeah.
So chapter 2 ends with like Adam being like, okay, like here's the fake dating like scheme that we're going to do. And Olive says that she needs to think about the proposition a bit more. And then she thanks Adam. And the chapter ends by him saying, "No problem, Olive."
When he uses her name, I don't know what it is. I'm just like, "Oh, you're using her name." I love it. No problem, Olive. Like,
Yeah, no, no,
alright.
you're so right. You're so
Oh.
right. Okay, chapter 2 is done. That was so much. Going into chapter 3, it's 3 days later and Olive is back at Adam's office. And it opens with the girl running out of his office crying. So again, we're getting like little bits of him being like this like asshole that he's
Mhm.
like known for. So she walks in and Adam says her name, as you were saying, and there's this entire paragraph describing how he says her name.
Yeah.
Like on page 52 it says Olive didn't quite know what, but it was there in the way he said her name. Precise, careful, deep, unlike anyone else, familiar, impossibly so. Are you kidding me?
How this is what's so brilliant about the writing. Something that shouldn't have an effect on me has an effect on me. I'm speechless because Olive, like, oh my gosh, I can't. I
Oh,
just can't.
yes, no. I know, exactly, and I love it so much. Again, going back to the whole, like, dating a grad student thing, Adam confirms that he, like, talked with the dean and that they're good to date except for, like, a few caveats, like, they can't collaborate in a formal capacity, and he has to, like, step out if he's nominated or if she's nominated for fellowships or awards and
Mhm,
all this other stuff, and then, like, that was it. I was
mhm.
like, "Oh, okay," and then they, like, moved on. So, again, it's I know it's a fiction book, but I was just like, I just need a little more reasoning.
Which I feel like, obviously, I'm not going to bring it up now, but I feel like things start to make more sense the more you go on in the book. But right
Oh,
now, it's
yeah.
like, what the heck is happening? Like, that's not casual. you know?
Yes, no, it is not casual. And then another small moment that, like, makes me giggle is when Olive admits that, like, she wasn't going to ask him to be part of her thesis committee, and he's, like, taken aback because his research would be, like, pretty beneficial to hers, but she says that, like, in a joking way, she says that she wants to graduate on time and doesn't want to spend time crying in the bathroom like that last girl who
Mhm.
ran out. And then get this, on page 54, it says, "He lowered his gaze to the desk, but not before Olive could see the corner of his mouth twitch."
Not that stupid mouth twitch again. Enough. I can't
Like,
handle it.
he's loving this. I know he's
Mhm.
loving this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Finally, Olive says that she's going to agree to do this whole fake dating thing, but before they like enter it, they need to lay down some ground rules, which like reminded me very much of To All the Boys I've Loved Before, but I think like the whole rules trope is like very common in fake dating books.
Yeah.
So I wasn't surprised. The first rule, strictly on campus. Second rule, no sex. He is so stunned that he can't even speak because he didn't even think that Olive would bring it up, but then she did, and she just like obviously wanted to lay down
Yeah.
like the ground rules, and then they go on to say how like this is such a weird arrangement, but they have to
Mhm.
put down the rules and it's blah 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 like
Well, it's just, like, so funny because obviously they're both biologists and they both, like, have to have their craft together as we know, and
yeah.
it's just, like, out of the 2 rules, like, really?
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna put any other parameters around it besides that, like, "Okay,
Yeah.
we know where your mind's at, girl." Mm,
I know, right?
yeesh.
Right. Third rule, Olive won't date anyone else, but Adam is free to if he wants or he's already seeing someone at the moment. Adam says no, that he won't date anyone else. And on page 57, this is what he says. There was a certain finality to his tone that took her by surprise. Like, he was so confident in that no. And, like, that moment, I knew something was up with Adam. I was
Mhm.
like, you don't add these descriptions for nothing. Like, it's
Literally.
characterization. I know something's up with Adam, and Adam has some sort of thing with, like, Olive, but we don't know yet. And I was, like, dying.
Yes, because there has to be more to that. Like, there's no way that he just is like, "Yep, I'm gonna do this. Here are the rules. Like, I'm not gonna date anyone else. Like you're gonna be
Yeah.
my focus." Like, it's uncharacteristic for who he is as a character, but also just like the whole situation. I don't know. So,
Yeah, exactly. The fourth rule, the deadline to their fake dating is September 29th. They have to make it till then and then they can end it. And then the fifth and last rule is that they need to do stuff together to show people that this is a real relationship. And this delves into like the funniest freaking conversation where Olive asks what he does for fun. And he's like, I guess I work at home and I work out and I sleep. Like, he's the most boring man in the
literally,
world.
like, which is funny because in real life, like, if I had went on a date with someone and I was like, "Oh, what do you like to do for fun?" And he was just like, "Work out, run." Like, I would be like, "Okay, like, you're
That's
boring,
it?
like, that's it,
Yeah.
okay." Like, but in this book, I'm like, "Oh." You know, like, it's just like, in real life, that would never fly. Like, "Boy,
Oh,
get yourself some
no.
hobbies." Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
So then Olive proposes that they just, like, get coffee each week for, like,
Mhm,
10 minutes, you know, nothing long, but, like, just enough that, like, people will believe their
mhm.
relationship. And then one of my all-time favorite parts in this chapter, Olive waits for him to type it into his computer in his schedule. And when he doesn't, she asks, "Aren't you going to add it to your calendar?" Then he goes, "I'll remember."
Okay,
Isn't that the
whatever.
isn't no, I'm saying that that is, like, the hottest thing ever because it's obvious that he cares this
Mhm.
entire time, which I find it, like, so attractive because he's like, "Oh, he cares so much about this coffee date
Yeah.
that he'll just remember." Like, he doesn't even have to put it in his schedule.
Exactly! Ah! Oh, I love it. I love it so much. It's the little things, seriously.
I know, I know. So then, they shake on it, and that's that. I also wanna mention that, like, Ali Hazelwood does a fantastic job of describing Adam Carlson, which is why I'm, like, literally so in love with him. Like, for example, when they're shaking hands, it says, "He stared at their joined hands before meeting her eyes, and Olive ordered herself not to notice the heat of his skin or how broad he was or anything else about him." Like,
Okay.
oh
Eh,
my gosh.
I've had enough. I can't.
I know, right?
I
Right?
like, it's just those little moments, like, it's just like, "Hi, I'm holding your hand," but it's just, like, so hyper focused on, like, I don't know, I
Yes,
just
yes. Yeah, again, too, it's like okay, it's like you're describing all these things and you're, like, trying to convince me that he's an ass, but, like,
Mhm.
you're also doing these things that, like, are making me fall in love with him, like, what are you
Literally.
doing? And then the last scene of this chapter is, with Olive and Malcolm, and they're cooking, and he's, like, ignoring her because, like, Malcolm hates Dr. Adam Carlson,
Yes.
which then prompts Olive to tell him that, like, it's, like, fake. Like, the whole entire thing is fake, and Malcolm is, like, the only one who knows, other than Adam, obviously, that this whole thing is fake. That is how chapter 3 ends.
Dang. You had some good chapters. And, like, that's what I mean, though, like, each chapter just, like, makes you wanna read more and sets up so much with
Oh,
every
yeah,
chapter.
definitely.
Alright, now we can finally go into chapter 4. Um, Let me give the little synopsis, okay? Chapter 4 gives us all the details on what fake dating Wednesdays looks like. Even the coffee represents how opposite they are between the pumpkin spice lattes and black coffee. Olive finds herself surprised when Adam shows his funny side even slightly and that she's willing to push him a bit. By the end of the chapter, Olive is being introduced to Dr. Tom Benton. I love this chapter, but on page 69, I wrote that just again that like Ali Hazelwood writes so realistically. Like
Mhm.
the way like in the chapter, it's described that she really, for the first time, lets herself recognize how handsome she thinks he is. And I just like love the way that like she describes him. And it's so realistic when it's like, I don't know if you have a friend or something and you never really thought of him that way, but then you have that moment and you're like, oh, they're kind of like, hmm. It's like, it's just very
Yes.
realistic in the way that happened, you know?
I agree, yeah.
And then, okay, so how did you feel about the favorite color question when she just goes, "What's your favorite color?" And it was just like, for me, it felt so awkward. I wanted to like crawl under a table. And like, it was so funny because it was very true to like who they are. But I wanted to like pass away. It was too awkward.
I don't know, I okay, so the thing is that I think I'm biased towards their coffee dates because I loved their coffee dates.
Oh, so
I,
did
like,
I.
I loved it whenever it, like, popped up in a chapter, so when I first read about, like, the color thing, I kinda just dismissed it as, like, "Oh, that's just they're just so opposite of each other
Uh
that,
huh.
like, this is, like, the most weird situation ever because 'cause they're not even alike."
And it's funny because the color thing becomes very important later.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
There's this part where they're paying for their drinks and Adam offers to pay for her coffee. But then he's like, "Oh, because you don't have a lot of money," or something like that. And I was like, that was the first time I felt like he was actually kind of like rude to her. Like you were saying before, it was like, he's so sweet with her, but so rude to
Mhm.
everyone else. Like I was like, oh, that did not come off right. And, like, I'm glad we got to see that, and I know it wasn't, like, ill-intentioned or anything, but, like, I don't know, I felt a certain way about that.
Yes, no, it was very purposeful for, like, Ali Hazelwood to add that in because, again, it's like we've been s all like, up until now, we've seen, like, so many good things about him, so we
Mhm.
just needed a little bit of, like, not being mean, but also not being kind.
Yeah, 100%. I love how, like, Olive eventually, like, on their coffee date asks about Adam's family and, like, in of course, we get, like, paragraphs about her mindset and stuff, but I love that it's described that, like, she's surprising herself that she wants to know more about him. Like, I just love that, and it's, like, that genuine curiosity for another person that, like, just, like, gets me so excited. I don't know.
I think that's why I love their coffee dates so much because it was like they didn't know it at first, but it's like they loved it too, and, like, the way that their conversations flowed, it was like they were truly dating through
Mhm.
these, coffee dates,
They
and I just,
were.
like, loved it.
Again, on page 74/75, I marked down it wasn't a mouth twitch, but it was like a smile, and I love that it's, like, only reserved for her, and I just love that that's, like, a nugget that we get throughout the book. I don't know, I just love it. It feels really special.
It does, and what kills me, like, what I love the most about it is that throughout the book, it gets bigger and bigger, like, he
Yes.
shows it more, and I just, like
I
I
know.
die.
It's so good. On page 78, Olive straight up calls him out on how moody he is. And I
Mhm.
just like love that because I don't know, I think you need to be challenged in like a relationship. And obviously it's fake at this point. But I love that, like, as awkward as she is and like impulsive and all these things, she's just like, why are you so moody? And I don't know. I love that she will like call him out because I don't think anyone else really does.
No, and I love that about her too, because she's, like, not afraid of Adam,
Hmm.
which I love, because it's like I mean, maybe again too, like, she hasn't had him as a professor, so she's, like, only heard of, like, what he's done.
Exactly.
But I think you mentioned it too in chapter 1, it's like they're always challenging each other throughout
Mhm.
this book, and I feel like Olive really does that with Adam,
Yes.
but I also think that Adam secretly likes it
Mhm.
because he's, like, obsessed with her.
Oh, he loves it, he loves it.
Yeah.
Okay, I forget what this paragraph says, but I literally have on my notes, page 79, read the first paragraph. So this is what the paragraph says for all of you listening. It looks good, as in really good. You are probably one of the most handsome men I'd ever talked to last week, but now you look even better. Not that I care about these things. I don't care at all. I rarely notice guys, and I'm not sure why I'm noticing you, or your hair, or your clothes, or how tall and broad you are. I really don't get it. I never care, usually. Ugh. I just something about that paragraph I just love because like throughout this whole thing she's really just realizing how much she actually might be interested in him. And I don't know, the way that it was described was so realistic cuz she's like I don't want
Mhm.
to, but I do, you know?
Yeah. I loved reading Olive's internal struggle. Like it was just so much fun, but also like so realistic. And I thought it was also funny that she kept like trying to distract herself because like
Yes.
she's like trying to deny it, but obviously, girl, like you can't.
Exactly, exactly. But then the chapter pretty much ends when she meets Tom. So I will go in to chapter 5 now. Let me read the synopsis. We'll see if it's any good. In chapter 5, we see the interactions between Olive, Tom, and Adam. Adam isn't afraid to stand up for Olive and support her when she needs it most during a chat that could change Olive's career. We also get to know Adam and Tom's relationship more. By the end, we discover that Olive has 2 weeks to get Tom an official proposal, which she is more than ready to take on. So, I love that in their interaction, Olive can't even help herself but compare Tom and Adam. It's like she's already making it real in her head and she's like, "Oh, I guess he's attractive, but like and I should be attracted to him, but like I just can't get Adam out of my head like he does something special for me, you know? Like I just love it."
I think it also indicates to like us that like even so early in the book, she's already falling hard for him.
Mhm.
Like it's so crazy.
Yup, literally. Oh, I love it. On page 87, the way that this is described, I think just goes again about how realistic Olive's reactions are. So this is what it says. She took a sip of her latte to temporize. Was she free? Technically, yes. She would have loved to run to the edge of campus and scream into the void until modern civilization collapsed, but that wasn't exactly a pressing matter, and she wanted to look as accommodating as possible to Dr. Benton, Tom, beggars and choosers, and all that. And I just like the part about screaming into the void and like all of those things, it just cracked me up because like who doesn't feel that way sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it's like so relatable. And I remember reading that too and laughing because just like I just like it also like it's, like, exciting that she's, like, finally meeting Tom, but also, like, super, super scary, so it's, like,
Mhm.
it makes sense that that's her reaction.
Yes. Okay, so then something else I think very important happens here. So it's when Tom starts asking Olive questions and is like kind of being a jerk about it. And Adam like stands up for her and like even
Mhm,
if she doesn't she recognizes that like he's doing for her what she needs most in that moment, and I think that
mhm.
means so much to her, and like he helps her get through that, and I think that's when she's like, oh, like this could really be something real. Like he just the rest of the chapter is basically him standing up for her and him giving her the reassurance she needs and stuff like that. And I love when she realizes she's like, "Oh my gosh, his arm is on the back of my chair." And I'm just like,
Yes. I I knew I didn't like Tom from that exact scene.
Uh-huh.
It just it just sat so badly with me where I was like, "Why are you just, like, coming in and, like, interrogating her, not only about her research, but, like, literally her personal life?" Like,
Literally.
you don't have you have, like, no right to that, and so that definitely sat very, very badly with me, like, which, we'll talk about later.
He's kind of the worst.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much what I had for chapter 5. But I feel like that was like a lot of what is very important to come, which I feel
Yeah.
like every
Oh.
chapter is, but
Oh, definitely, yeah. Okay. Chapter 6 and 7 are literally my favorite chapters, and I oh my god, okay, so sorry if I'm, like, being so annoying with these 2 chapters because 'cause they're literally my favorite. Anyways,
you're
chapter
not
6.
annoying.
Thank you. So in chapter 6, Anne and Olive go to the auditorium for Tom's talk slash presentation because he's visiting Stanford, so he's gonna give a talk on his research, and it's packed, like crazy, crazy packed, and they can't find a seat. Then Olive spots Adam a few meters away in an aisle seat talking to Holden Rodriguez, which I love Holden, by the way.
I love him. I literally wrote that down
Yes.
later in the book about like he's the best, literally the
He's
best.
amazing. Like, I was like he just, like, grew on me, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, you're amazing." And then Adam is in a black Henley, which looks so good on him. On page 96, it says, "He didn't wave back, but his gaze seemed softer and warmer, and his mouth curved into that tilt that she had learned to recognize as his version of a smile." So cute. Okay, so more people are coming in, and it pushes Anne and Olive closer to Adam and Holden. And before they can find a seat, like the people have already started the presentation. And so they're standing next to Adam and Holden. Adam offers Olive her seat, which is like very, very nice. But then Anne interjects and is like, "Yeah, no can do. If you stand, Dr. Carlson, no one behind you will be able to see because he's like tall, like very, very tall." So what does Anne do? She gives a suggestion, which is for Olive to sit in his lap. When I first read this, I screamed. No, no joke.
Literally same. I was like, "You're kidding me, right?"
I
I
had to like put the book down and take deep breaths because I was like, this is not happening right now.
it's so like, "Oh my gosh." I
Oh my gosh. Again, like I said before, like in rom-coms, like these scenes just like happen and they're kind of like cheesy, but again, it's a rom-com novel. Like
Mhm.
you know what you're getting, and I just like
I
loved
love
it.
it, I love it, and I love that she thinks she's being so funny and, like, cute, and, like, they're Olive and Adam are like, "Oh my frickin' lord.
Yeah, they're
You've
like,
gotta be
"Oh, are
kidding
you
me."
kidding me?"
Literally.
Yeah. Obviously, like, Anne and Olive argue because she's like, "No, this is, like, not going to happen," but then eventually she turns to Adam, and this is what she sees. On page 98, it says, "Adam, who was, very unsurprisingly, looking up at her with that non-expression of his, the one that Olive couldn't quite decipher, except that his jaw was working, and she wondered if maybe that was it, the last straw, the moment he backed out of their arrangement. when I first read this, I was like, crap, like maybe Olive is right. Like at this point, we
Mhm.
don't really know much about Adam and we don't know much about his boundaries either. So like, yes, they did kiss, but like this might just be a little too far for him, especially because it's in front of a packed auditorium with people that he works with.
It's interesting that, like, that was what was going through your mind because
Mhm.
when I read that, I just read it as he's already shown so much that he's, like, willing to do whatever, that I thought it just really showed, like, her self-doubt in a way. So that's, like, what I got from it because she's just like,
Oh,
"There's no way he would wanna take it this far, like, this is too much, like, he's already doing so much, blah, blah, blah." So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. But yeah, so that was my thought on Adam's reaction.
Yes.
But then because I reread it for this podcast and I've also read a very special chapter that we'll talk about later,
Hee hee.
I know exactly what he's thinking about in this moment and I am dying. Like I wish I would have seen it the first time around, but
Yes.
like also it's like very special that like he's, like, mysterious still, which I really, really like. But yeah, we'll talk about that later, and I just think it's so interesting.
Yes, I know, me too.
They kind of talk during the entire presentation
Mhm.
that Tom is doing. But like I said previously, Ali Hazelwood does, like, such a great job at making these situations, like, comfortable. On page 99, it says, "Adam turned his face a little and told her, 'It's okay.' He sounded a bit strained, like nothing about this situation was, in fact, okay." Like, it's just so good.
But that just goes to show he literally doesn't care. He
Yeah.
just wants to be near her. Like, that's all he
Yes.
wants.
Yes, exactly. So then throughout the presentation, Olive starts to relax and basically starts slipping down, and Adam has to readjust her. And there's two whole paragraphs of Olive just describing how comfortable Adam feels and like where his hand is placed. Like it's all very intimate stuff in a non-intimate situation because they're
Yes.
in a packed auditorium. Again, I think it's still like such a good mix that Ali Hazelwood does, and I
Mhm.
love that she uses like these contradictions, and I think it's just it's great and it's the best formula ever. What kills me is when Olive finally turns to whisper in Adam's ear and she's saying how like this whole fake dating thing is working so well for her and her situation, which then Adam blinks, nods, and his arm tenses around her like a little. Like very subtle moments, but very obvious in that he may either be uncomfortable or something else.
It's something else. It's something
Yeah.
else. He is not uncomfortable. Girlfriend, if he hasn't shown you by now that he'll do whatever, like, he wants you there. You're right where he wants you.
So the next scene, Anne and Olive leave to go back home, but when they get outside, they see that the parking lot is like pretty
Mhm.
jammed. Like all the cars aren't moving. And then, can you freaking believe in a romance novel that this is what happens next? Guess who's helping with the freaking traffic? The
Ugh.
one and only Dr. Adam Carlson himself. Not only is he like helping like direct,
Mhm.
he's he pushes a freaking truck out of the way so that all the other cars can pass. Like what?
Of course he does. That's all I have to say about that. Of course he does because he has to be
Yes.
strong. He has to be the one to find the solution. He has to be
Yeah.
the one to do it so attractively, like as if there's no other
Yeah.
option. I don't,
Exactly.
I can't.
Again, there's this like whole entire paragraph about how his muscles are straining against his Henley, and I
Yes.
literally I literally died and went to heaven and then back again because, like, that's exactly what I needed after Olive just sat in his lap for, like, the entire 2-hour presentation, like, my heart could not
No,
handle
that's what
it.
I mean. It's like the book doesn't give you a chance to breathe. And they always
No.
describe the things at the perfect moment where you're like, "Okay, I might have calmed down a little," and then it's like and then your heart
No,
rate just jumps again. Like, "Oh my
yes.
lord."
Okay, remember when I said that, like, Anne always gives suggestions, and they're usually suggestions that no one wants?
Yes.
Well, guess what? Another another one of her suggestion,
Classic.
Anne tells Olive to give him a kiss. Like, what?
Like, I'm sorry, that would never happen in real life.
Uh-uh.
Like, what are you
No.
talking about?
again, I love it because it's, like, a
Oh,
rom-com
of
and, like, I'm
course.
gonna take it, but it did feel a little weird and, like, very, like, high school-y to me because I would never say that to anyone
Mm-mm.
except maybe, like, in high school, like, early high school, but I don't know, it just felt weird, but
Yeah.
I didn't hate it, you know?
No, I
I
didn't hate it either.
Olive approaches Adam, and she's, like, literally starstruck by him, like, the woman was too stunned to speak. Um, it says on page 106, "He wiped the sweat from his eyes with the hem of his shirt. It left a broad strip of fresh" wait, I don't know what I'm reading. It left a broad
Wait.
wait, okay, wait. I'm gonna pull it up. Okay, so on page 106, it says, "Adam wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand." No, that's not it. That's not it. Wait. Okay, you know what? Forget it. Anyways, it's all it's like a good paragraph, but I literally can't find it. What what I was going to say, if I could find the frickin' quote, is that this was the moment I knew that she was starting to fall for him. Like,
Mm.
because you don't make these observations without having, like, secret feelings for
Yes,
them, you know?
literally.
So then Olive explains why she's there, and she's, like, apologizing and rambling on about the whole thing and how they have if, like, they kiss now, it'll be 2 birds killed with 1 stone, and Adam interrupts her and tells her it's okay and to breathe. Like, so
I
sweet.
know. He's just like he will, like, stop her when she's rambling, and I love it because she
Yes.
needs that, and it's just like, it's fine. Like, that's the least bad thing that we have to do in this whole like, just relax.
So then they, like, argue a little bit because, like, Olive is like, "Oh, I'll only kiss you if you want to, and, like, it's not a big deal, and blah, 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 blah," and at this point, I'm just like, "Oh my god, just kiss already."
Literally.
So then on page 109, when they do finally kiss, it says, "When she eased back on her heels, it seemed like for a fraction of a moment Adam followed her, trying to fill the gap between their mouths. Though by the time she blinked herself free of the haze of the kiss, he was standing tall in front of her, cheekbones dusted with red and chest moving up and down in shallow breaths."
What the heck?
You're gonna tell me that, like, Adam doesn't like Olive? Like,
Like,
are you kidding
please.
me?
Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Girl, you're noticing all of these things. Stop fooling
Yeah.
yourself."
They both need to stop fooling themselves, like
Literally. And this happens about 1,000 more times.
and then, chapter 6 ends in the cutest way ever. Olive is working on her report for Tom, and she thinks back to when she told Adam that, like, she'd be there at the department picnic next week. She says, "Well, I'm going too," and Adam says, "At least there's that." That's when she realizes that, like, he said that, and then
Mhm.
she, like, ducks her head down and, like, smiles at her toes, and it's just so cute. Like, well, that was chapter 6, which
Whew,
is
what a
crazy.
doozy.
Oh my gosh. Okay, chapter 7 is not even any better. Like, it's another
I
doozy.
feel like I need to catch my breath. I'm not
I
even reading
know.
it, and I can't handle myself right now. Like,
I know,
oh
right?
my gosh.
Okay, chapter 7. So, this chapter opens with Olive working on her report for Tom, and then Greg, this other PhD student, barges in looking all angry and pissed off, and Olive, because she has, like, a heart of gold, she asks what's wrong. And Greg, being, like, super freaking angry, he says, "Your stupid boyfriend is what's wrong. Like, we're in high school or something." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
That that whole situation pissed me off because I'm just like, and maybe this is just something I think about, like, in life, but,
Mhm.
like, why are you yelling at someone? Go yell at the person. Like, she doesn't control him. She doesn't get to decide how he thinks and what he says. So why are you acting like it's her fault? Like, why are you coming at her?
Exactly, and I think I, like that's why I was, like, so annoyed with this scene. I was like, "Greg, your logic literally doesn't make sense right now. Like,
Literally.
what the heck?" But then we learned that, like, Adam is on Greg's dissertation committee, and he failed Greg's proposal, which is going to set Greg back a lot because he has to revise it all and he's angry. And again, for some stupid reason, he's like angry at Olive because Olive is dating Adam,
Whatever,
which
Greg,
I know,
bye.
right? Exactly. Then we commence like Olive and Adam's like first real fight. Olive texts Adam and asks if he failed Greg. And it's funny because like she says that like Adam is like never on his phone while they're together. So she's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, it's gonna take a while." He responds right away. Like he was waiting at the phone. Which I think is so funny. So then there's this like whole spiel about how like, yeah, he did fail Greg's proposal and it wasn't up to par and blah, 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 blah. And then on page 119, Adam goes, "It's not my job to manage your friend's emotions. He's in a PhD program, not grade school." And then he goes on to say, "The reason Greg's proposal needs to be modified is that in its current state, it's setting him up for failure."
Mm.
Which, okay, I understand Adam's point. Like, it makes sense to me. But another part of me also agrees with Adam,
Mhm.
not Adam, agrees with Olive,
Hmm.
because you can say it in a nicer way. Like, you're being an
Yes.
asshole,
Yes.
obviously.
So I had very conflicting emotions about this because I understand both of their perspectives. Like,
Hmm.
Olive, I get because he needs to be nicer about it. But Adam, I really feel like was right because it's like, what business does Olive really have asking about that? But I know Olive
Yes.
was just like really stressed in that situation, wants to take care of people. So, like, I
Yeah.
get both sides, but I do think that Adam could have just like been nicer about it in the first place.
Yeah. Well, again, too, I think it's, like, unfair to her too, because it's, like, Greg took his anger out on her, and, like,
Mhm.
that's not fair, so, like, I definitely can see how, like, that, like, passed on to Olive, and now she's angry at Adam and stuff, so it's, like it's just, like, not an ideal situation.
Mhm. 100%.
Yeah. Olive tells him that grads perceive him as antagonistic and unapproachable. Then Adam sends the longest freaking paragraph about his job, like is to form rigorous researchers and like who won't publish useless crap and blah 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 and all this stuff. Like again, just going back to your point that like they both are right in their situations, but like there's just like a little adjustment that both of
Yeah.
them can do.
Yeah, 100%.
After that long text, there's a moment where Olive reflects, and we really get to see like why this is hitting her so hard. Not
Sure.
just because like Greg was being like super mean to her for no reason, but it's because she's been in Greg's position before. So she like 100% knows how Greg is feeling to be like delayed at
Yeah.
on his research. So she's on the other side having this conversation with the person who is notorious for failing students' proposals. So she sends one more text and it says, "Well, fuck you, Adam." Which I thought was a power move.
I
Like,
thought
you
it
go,
was too.
girl.
Like, she's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, you need to relax. Screw
Yeah.
you. I'm done with this right now."
Yeah. More power
Good.
to her.
Yeah, good. You tell him. Ugh.
I mean, I was still obsessed with Adam
Oh,
anyways,
of
so
course. Yeah, screw him, but go talk to him.
yeah, exactly. So the next scene opens with Olive, Ann, Malcolm, and Jeremy in the car driving to the department picnic, and they're lost and late. They finally get there. It's September and it's like super hot, and there's just like a bunch of stuff happening. There's
Mhm,
like food, people talking, people playing sports, mingling around, chatting with each other, just like a lot of stuff.
mhm.
And then out of nowhere, on page 124, Jeremy goes, "Holy shit." And Olive is confused because Anne and Jeremy are freaking out. That's when it's revealed that Adam Carlson is shirtless playing ultimate frisbee and he looks so freaking good. Like when I first read this, I was like squealing like a dumb idiot
Oh
cuz
my
I got
gosh.
so excited.
Me too. I was like, and it's just like you know that moment where it's like, "He looks like that?
Yes.
Excuse me?" Like, oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Olive forgot her phone in Malcolm's car, so she gets up to like go and get it. And then at this point, she gets a better view of the people playing ultimate
Mhm.
frisbee. And during this time, her internal thoughts on page 126 say, Olive wasn't like this. She really was not. She could count the number of guys she had been viscerally attracted to on one hand. Actually, one finger. That one finger is Adam. Like
Yep.
100%.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I I love that it shows that it's not like a regular thing for her because it just shows like how special that connection is.
I know, and I love
I know it
it. Okay.
too. I know what's
And
coming, so I'm like trying to prepare myself. Okay.
me too, girl. Me too. Okay. And just like any good like rom-com book, the perfect thing happens at the perfect time. And
Yes.
Tom throws the frisbee just perfectly in Olive's direction so that Adam has to run in that direction and catch it. So he's now close to Olive. And then Anne, like the mother that she is, gives Olive like more sunscreen and like Olive doesn't know what to do with it. It's like literally like a puddle in her like hands right now. Her friends don't give her any good solutions, but then Anne waves at someone over Olive's shoulder and goes, "Hey, Dr. Carlson, have you put on any sunscreen yet?"
I'm literally so obsessed with Anne because she just like she knows Olive well enough to know that that's just not even in her realm like at all. And
Yes.
she's just like messing with her at this point. Like who says that?
I know. I died when I read this because I
Mhm.
was like, of course Anne
Of course.
suggests that.
Of
Like, of course she
course.
does that. And then again, I had to put the book down and take deep breaths
Yes,
because I was just
cuz you
like,
knew what was
oh my
coming.
God.
Yep.
I know. I was like, oh my God, is this really happening? Like, Adam says like no, he hasn't put on any sunscreen and he's standing right behind Olive already. So she
Mhm.
turns around to face him and he's like sweaty, holding the frisbee and is very very shirtless. Adam says, "Hey," once they get closer, which, like, I don't know why, but I found it, like, so cute and intimate
I
that he was
know.
like, "Hey," and she was like, "Hey," like
Well, you know,
Wait, I know what you're saying. I know what you're gonna say.
listeners remember that.
It's called foreshadowing.
It's called foreshadowing to the most intense degree I can't even speak. Okay, I'm not
Oh my gosh.
next. What?
Olive mentions that he's, like, super tall and he, like, towers over her and that her eyes are, like, right in front of his pecs, and she has to, like, basically snap herself out of her thoughts because she's like, "Oh my god, I have to focus."
Mhm.
Um, so then he, like, turns around and kinda, like, ducks down so that she can, like, rub some sunscreen on his back. And in, like, every situation that they've gotten to, Olive apologizes to him, and he says, "It's fine, it's not your fault, like, these things just, like, keep happening." Well,
Yeah.
obviously, it's Anne's fault, but whatever. They talk, and Adam tells her that playing ultimate frisbee is better than like chit chatting around with the department. And Olive goes on to say that that's probably why he's so fit and how it explains that his adult personality is so dot dot dot. And then Adam finishes her sentence for her and uses her text and says, "Oh, like antagonistic and unapproachable," which I thought was a power move,
I thought
dude.
so
Like,
too.
I was like, oh my gosh, we're going there. Like, oh my
Dang.
gosh.
I was like, you are just like throwing it back. Like, I, okay.
Yes. Okay, and then again, Olive apologizes and is obviously very embarrassed and flustered, only to see Adam laughing at her. Like, he's like so mean in the kindest and
Yes.
weirdest way ever.
But
Like, he's just like teasing her.
But I literally love it. I'm sorry. I think when a guy like teases a girl, it's so cute because they just want to
Yeah.
see a reaction. And like, I just, ugh, I love it. I
Oh,
love
yeah.
it.
And then on the bottom of page 132, it says Olive wasn't going to get to talk with him again until Wednesday. And why the thought came with an odd pang in her chest, she had no clue. Me too, girl. Me too.
I was like, I felt that. I felt that ping in my chest.
Same, same. And then the chapter ends with Tom approaching them, and Tom tells them that like himself and Adam are going to Boston next week for a few days to like finish setting up stuff on the Harvard side for like their grant. And before they leave, Tom will need Olive's report. So that propels and excites her, that she has to finish this, like, really big, important report for Tom. And then Adam hesitates just for a moment before going back to play Ultimate Frisbee, and Olive tries not to stare as he goes back on the field, and that's how chapter 7 ends.
Ugh. Wow, those were some great chapters, dude. Like, what the
It was
heck?
literally, like you said, like, Ali Hazelwood just, like, didn't let us breathe
No, she
for, like
didn't.
she did not.
I will read the synopsis now for chapter 8. In chapter 8, we get dialogue between Adam and Olive late at night while they are both working on the research. In a simple setting by the vending machine, we start to see Olive and Adam open up to each other, flirt, and get a good sense of what their friendship, in quotes, has actually turned into. So, this chapter I love because it is in one place, in one very simple setting, but so much happens and it makes you feel so much. Like, I literally marked down, why does him giving her chips become so attractive? Like, it's just a friggin' bag of chips. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's giving her chips. Like, I just, something.
Yeah, like, I think Ali Hazelwood does a good job of, like, balancing, like, things, like, in chapter 6 and 7 that are, like, kind of, like, huge and, like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness moments to, like, these really quiet, cute, intimate moments that just,
Yes.
like, it just makes me love them more, and, like, Ali Hazelwood does such a great job at, like, balancing it.
100%. On page 139, I really like that they added it in there because, after the last two chapters, there was a lot of stuff going on and she was starting to feel a lot of things. But there's this moment when it sets in again that he's faculty, she's a student, and just like
Mhm.
how different their worlds are right now. And I think that like grounds us back into like the reality of their situation because so much was happening and we were getting really hyper about it and excited. But then it's like, but reality is saying that, like, there's a lot more to this that makes this very complicated that you hadn't set in for a second?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I literally have a note that says page 140. Okay, stop flirting about the sunscreen. Ah. On page 143, tell me. Okay, I think after we've been talking, I realized that this is not quite correct, but this was one of the first times that Olive heard something that Adam said and really was like, "Wait, that sounds exactly like what the guy said to me." She was like, "No, no, no, that can't be real." It's like she won't admit it to herself or like let herself think about it further. But I think that the fact that she finally got the inkling, I was like, "You got the inkling, like you're starting to like think about it?"
Yeah, I love that about this novel too, is that, like, she pieces it together when, like, the reader already knows,
Yes.
and it was super fun to see her, like, put it all together. A little frustrating because I was like, You're really it's him.
Uh-huh.
Why are you questioning it? It's him,
Girl.
like, for 100%."
Literally.
But it was just, like, super cute for her to, like, piece it all together and come to that realization.
Exactly. On page 146, there's this moment where Olive is just sharing like a lot of personal stuff with him. And I think
Mhm.
vulnerability is really hard for her. And she really expects him to respond a certain way or like apologize, as like people do with grief and stuff. But he doesn't. He responds to her in a very, very simple way, which is really unexpected to her. And I just think as this is like the perfect instance where we see that like he just knows exactly what she needs, even if she doesn't realize what she needs. And I just think that's such a beautiful aspect of their relationship.
He's so considerate, and, like, I think
Literally.
these quiet moments really, really show that he is very, very caring,
Mhm.
about the way that he, like, thinks, and acts around Olive.
Yes. In this chapter, there's also this one part where she lays her head on his shoulder, and it's just like a really intimate and cute moment. And I just like
Mhm.
couldn't handle it. It just shows that like they've really gotten comfortable with each other to be able to share all that stuff for her to like lay on his shoulder. And I love the cute moments just as much as I love like the spicy moments.
Yes, I agree. Again, too, it's like Ali Hazelwood does such a great job at
Hmm.
balancing it and making it real, like, it's like, oh, yeah, that sunscreen scene was, like, very like, very, like, outrageous in a sense, but almost like, I don't know if that's realistic or whatever." But then
Mhm.
these, like, quiet, cute
Literally.
moments that are, like, so realistic and just, like, heartwarming, like, oh my god, I love it.
It's so good. I'm just gonna read my note because I don't
Okay,
think I'll be able to describe it better than my genuine reaction reading that. So page
okay.
149. I said, "Is this him being flirty out in the open? Excuse me?" In quotes, "Maybe you just pull out the best in me." Like, okay. And then I put a little bullet underneath and I said, "Okay, scratch that. This entire page I can't handle. The way he tugged on her sweater and he says it was his plan to keep her around? Like, excuse
Oh my gosh.
like, it's just what else does he need to do besides telling you that he's so interested in you?
I know, and it's like it hurts me because it's like he's joking, but, like, deep down, I know he's being
Exactly,
serious.
exactly, oh my gosh. As Adam's about to tell Olive something, whoever barges in and is like, I forget who barges in, but someone barges in and basically interrupts him, and then she leaves before Adam can say what he needs to say, and I still have no idea what he wanted to say to her. I'm sure there's, like, theories about that, but
I don't know if it was, like, mentioned in his chapter or whatever, but, like, I am dying to know. Ali
mhm.
Hazelwood, let us know.
All right. Well, that leads us into chapter 9. So let me read my little synopsis. In chapter 9, Olive has a final meeting with Tom to answer questions about her proposal at Adam's house. Finally, Olive discovers that Tom accepts her to do research at Harvard next year and, of course, wants to celebrate with Adam. Next, we get a further glimpse into the nature of Olive and Adam's relationship when Olive wants to go get the flu shot together and she discovers Adam is afraid of feeling needles. And I this whole chapter was just like too many things, like one thing after another, and I was like, I can't. So
Yeah.
basically, she shows up to his house and she sees that he's just getting back from a run, and automatically she's assuming what kind of music he listens to and like thinking about what she would do to like bug him, like add Ariana to his playlist and things like that. And just I don't know, I just love that she wants to like push his buttons back just like he does to her.
It's so cute, but I also think it's like she wants to, like, insert herself in his
Yes.
life, like,
Yes.
put little reminders that, like, "Oh, Olive was here." Like, it just, like,
Yes.
makes me so happy that, like, she wants to do that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I literally love it. So then next, basically, they go inside. Olive has the conversation with Tom while Adam's in the shower, and basically, she's not quite sure how it goes, but then as Adam and Olive are about to leave, Tom is like, "I'll see you at Harvard next year, right?" And she screams. And then she goes outside and she like freaks out, is like jumping around. And then he's like, "Are you done?" And then she just like can't handle her excitement that she just run and like hugs him. And then the way she describes it, he hugs her back and just says, "Congratulations." Like it's just such a pure moment, and I just like the genuine excitement for her and like happiness. I just it's just so sweet.
Oh my god, I remember, like, reading that and being like, "Oh my god, Tom's not gonna, like, offer her the position," and then he, like, did it last minute, and then she, like she was so excited, but also, like, Adam was there too, and, like, she wanted to celebrate with him, and it's just so cute.
I know. Oh my gosh. But then we have another moment where Olive realizes that Adam could be the guy, and she's still not quite willing to admit it to herself. But now that she's like kind of put it together, she's not going to be able to let it go. It's like it's
Mhm.
really setting in that like they could be the same person. And I think this is a point where she knows, but she won't admit it to herself. But then there's like a part later on where she's like, okay, now I know for sure. Again, they're in their car on the way to go do whatever. And Olive's like, I want to go to Flucella first. And he's like, what the heck? And I just love how Olive like explains things to him. And like, and then they have the whole banter about just like him being afraid of the needles and stuff. And I just
Mhm.
love it. And like, I love that Adam's showing his fear here, which he like never does. And Olive is just like kind of making fun of him and she just like pushes him to do it. And I love this. It's like,
Yeah.
Olive set out one to really, like, really push people to do things, but, like, she was like, "We're doing it," and I just love this because this is such a, like, real relationship thing to do, and I just, like I literally loved it.
I was surprised that Adam caved in because I was like, "Oh, you're afraid of needles," which is,
Mhm.
like, fine, like, that's a very real fear, but part of me also thinks that he only did it because he knew he'd go with Olive,
Yes,
which
I
is
know, I know.
like
He literally wouldn't have gone with anyone else, like, he would have never been
Oh,
convinced
yeah.
otherwise.
No, yeah.
And I okay, so then there's one more page that I just have to talk about. I marked it down as page 165 if anyone wants to go look, but basically it's just, like, Olive observing Adam and just her calling him adorable, like, multiple times, and I just love it, like, at this point, there's no more reservations about her,
Mhm.
like, being attracted or her being interested in him, she's just like, "He's adorable, he just is," and I just think it's so sweet.
Again, like, the pace of their relationship is fantastic. Like,
Mhm,
I love that we get, like, these inner dialogues from Olive to see her thinking, and it's like I don't know, I didn't feel that their, like, romance was, like, rushed. It
mhm.
was, like, super cute and intimate moments and stuff, and I don't know, it just felt really natural, and
Yes,
I just loved
exactly.
seeing it.
I know, and I think it's so brilliant because it's like you said, it happens very slowly, but it's like they're normally dating even though they say they're fake dating. So I like that we
Yep.
still see so much development in that.
Oh, yeah.
And that is all I have for that chapter. So I'm curious what happens next.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, moving on to chapter 10. This is a big chapter, and in my opinion, I think it's the midpoint for Olive's character arc. And I'll get
Oh,
into it like why I think it is.
okay.
But the first scene in this chapter, Olive is in the lab talking to her lab rats, and she's also texting Adam, and they're flirting, and he's like saying how like his arm hurts from like the shot the other day, and Olive asks if she should come over and kiss it better, which is like, you're telling me that like that's how you're flirting and this is supposed to be fake? Like,
Like whatever.
are
Try.
you kidding
Oh
me?
my gosh.
They're texting and stuff, and then Anne interrupts
Of
them, well,
course.
interrupts Anne interrupts Olive and comes by to grab gloves and just, like, mentions that, like, she can see that Olive is, like, very, very different with Adam. Anne knows that Olive is truly in love with Adam because it was never that way with Jeremy. Like, Olive
Yes.
acts different with Adam, and Anne recognizes that. That literally puts Olive in, like, a spiral, like a
Mhm.
horrible spiral being like, oh shit, like, something's happening."
Mhm.
So she texts Malcolm because, again, Malcolm's the only one who knows that this is fake,
Mhm.
and they are gonna go chat over at, like, the Starbucks on campus, and so they talk, and she admits that she, like, likes Adam and that she
Aw.
wants to spend time with him,
Aw.
and, like, there's a small inner dialogue that talks about how rare it was for her to, like, experience attraction, especially sexual attraction, on
Mhm.
the top of page 173, and this is so random, but I just wanted to mention it that, like, I don't think Ali Hazelwood, like, put a label on it earlier in the book,
Mhm.
but I love that she added this, like, little bit of detail to Olive because I
Mhm.
don't think we see it often as a reader within books nowadays,
No,
but
you
I think it's
never
getting
see
better.
that.
No, and I think Olive's sexual orientation would technically be demisexual,
Mhm.
who are people that only experience sexual attraction after developing a strong emotional bond with someone,
Mhm.
which is very true because she, like, connected strongly with Adam first before they even did anything.
Yeah.
I don't wanna give, like, Olive a label, like, because I don't
Sure.
think Ali Hazelwood did,
Mhm.
but, just mentioning it. So then Olive and Malcolm are in the coffee shop, and they're talking about how, like, if she's going to tell Adam her feelings, and she says no because she's worried that Adam will think she orchestrated this whole thing
Mhm.
to get with him in the end, which, like, makes sense, but I'm like, I don't know, I feel like Adam would kind of understand,
Yeah. Oh,
like,
he would.
you know? And then she mentions to Malcolm that, like, the bathroom guy who helped with her decision for grad school might be Adam. So, like, she's finally kind of, like, saying it
Yes.
out loud that it might be him.
Mhm.
Malcolm proposes the idea that Adam might like her back. But then Olive gets in her head and says no because, like, she doesn't think she's great, like, she doesn't see herself in a positive light, so, like, why would Adam, out of all people, see her like that too? I don't know, it's just, like, this entire book, her, like, friends are, like, telling her how amazing and beautiful and smart and
Yeah.
talented as she is, but she, like, just doesn't believe it, which, like, again, I think is, like, that inner wound that, like,
Yes.
she needs to, like, heal.
Well, I just love her character so much in that way because she's so
Yeah.
real, and it's like I think that's true for a lot of people where it's like, no matter who says what to you, if you don't believe it yourself, it doesn't mean that much, like, you have to believe that in yourself, and, like
Oh, yeah. So Malcolm says that, like, if she tells Adam that she has feelings and he doesn't reciprocate, she doesn't have much to lose, but then it's revealed that she, like, really does have a lot to lose because 'cause she's been,
Yeah.
like, loving the time that she's, like, been spending with Adam and,
Yeah.
like, the way he smiles at her when she, like, orders extra whipped cream on her coffee, like, all these, like, cute things that, like, she has come to cherish and she doesn't wanna lose it, which, like, it makes me so sad, but it's, like, totally understandable because it makes her so happy and she doesn't wanna risk losing that, you know?
Yeah, and we know that, like, Olive has dealt with some really, really hard grief in her life, and so I think anytime
Yeah.
she feels like she's losing something, it's, like, really extra sensitive, and so
Yeah.
but I think it's just, like, so beautiful that she's just like, I because she doesn't have, like, all these friends, which is, like, fine, but it's like she has just, like, a very close-knit group of people that she spends her time with, and I think that, like, Adam has become one of those people, and she's afraid to just, like, lose him as any kind of presence in her life.
Yes, definitely, and that goes right into my next point because then it's revealed even more what her, like, emotional wound is that, like, she's scared to move forward or even tell Adam about her feelings because all the people she's cared for about in her life
Mhm.
are now gone, and, like,
Yeah.
there's this fear that's, like, still within her that, like, she believes that if she lets herself care too much, Adam will go like all the people that have left in her life.
Yeah. It's
It's literally
heartbreaking.
it's literally the saddest thing in the world,
So
like,
sad.
okay, so then Olive tells Malcolm again that, like, she's not gonna tell Adam about her feelings and is
Mhm.
basically asking how it would go. She says on page 177, "How would that conversation even work? How would I phrase it? Do I tell him that I'm into him, that I think about him all the time, that I have a huge crush on him?" Before she can finish, Anne texts her, which is when she gets to look at her phone. It's 10 a.m. in the Starbucks that she usually meets Adam in on every Wednesday. And guess who is standing right behind her? Freaking Adam. He was standing behind her while she was saying that. I literally screamed.
I more than any other part, maybe, I wanted to, like, crawl under the table, close the book, rip it to shreds, never read it again, burn it, like, I
Same.
can't.
Same. I was so stressed, but excited too,
Yes,
you
yes,
know?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is how chapter 10 ends, but it
Rude.
goes right into 11. So chapter 11 starts with Olive asking if Adam heard all that she had said, and he says yes. In Olive's fashion, she lies again. Bestie is just building her life upon lies at this point. Like, she she has nothing, you
Olive,
know?
like, just freaking okay.
She lies and says it's not about him, and Adam says that he knows it's not about him. And Olive keeps talking and rambling, and I'm just like, "Ugh, stop. You don't owe anyone an explanation," but she keeps, like, saying that, like, she has a thing for this guy, and, like, Adam says it's okay. Adam then begins to say if this arrangement no longer helps them anymore, that maybe they should just kind of, but then Olive interrupts and just says that it's, like, complicated, but she can't tell this guy that she likes him. This hurts me because it's like it's just miscommunication at this point, and I
Yeah.
know the trope of, like, miscommunication is pretty
Mhm.
controversial. I don't mind it too much, but at this moment, I was, like, dying, and not
Mhm.
in a good way, because I was like, "Just tell each other, like, what is happening?"
I know, and I got really frustrated because I feel like you said, the last chapter was really, like, pivotal for her development and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then I think that, like, this just brought her back. I'm like, "Why are you lying again?" Like, you don't have to, like,
Yes.
admit to it or, like, sit there and have a full conversation about it, but you coulda just,
Yes.
like, blown past it or tried to change a subject or something. Like, I just why lie and say it was someone else? Like,
I
because if there's
know.
any shred of anything, Malcolm just told you that he thought that he likes you back, and then she she just gets rid of any chance that that could happen, and it
I
pisses me
know.
off.
Yeah, no, same, same. But then the wonderful Holden comes, and interrupts them, and we learn that, like, him and Adam go, like, way, way
Mhm.
back in, like, high school, and I literally love it. I'm so obsessed, and, like, it's funny because then this chapter is basically just, like, Holden telling Olive about all these, like, funny stories and stuff. But then a key piece that I
Mhm.
also wanna mention is that we also learn that Holden hates Tom, but we don't get much detail on that here, but that
Mhm.
he just, like, does not like Tom.
Which I love that they did that because it's like already, like we said, with the way that, like, Tom interacted with Olive, we already maybe felt a little iffy about him, and we already
Yes.
knew that we really liked Holden. So the fact that someone we really like is, like, icked out by someone we're also, like, iffy about was very, very,
Yes.
like, smart.
Yeah, very telling
Mhm.
too, you know? I think the funniest thing in this chapter is that, like, when Holden reveals that when he got dumped 3 days prior to prom, Adam offered to go as his date, which is so cute,
I love it.
but also that, like, it wasn't his first fake dating
Yes.
rodeo. Like, Olive is his second, technically,
I yes, you're right. Oh.
it's so cute. Once Holden leaves, Olive says that Adam didn't tell Holden that this whole thing was fake, and she asks why. Adam says he doesn't know, and he fumbles over his words and trails off. Like, at this point, I'm like, just tell her. Like, both of you
Literally.
just tell each other. Like,
Literally,
oh my
like, what
gosh.
are you waiting for? It's so obvious to us.
But then, unfortunately, in this moment, that's when Olive realizes the ramifications of their arrangement on Adam's life.
Sure.
So she's only lying to Anne, and she doesn't really care about, like, what other people think
Mhm,
of her. But for Adam, like, he's lying to a lot of people in
mhm,
his life, and it's possibly changing the way that his reputation is, like, looked at on
mhm,
campus as well, and it's not a good way either.
mhm,
Unfortunately, like, at this point, her situation is all figured out because, like, Anne and Jeremy are now happy together and they're dating, but Adam's research funds are still frozen. So, like, this whole thing is definitely benefiting Olive more than Adam, and she
mhm,
feels, like, really guilty because
mhm,
she's, like, developed feelings for her, which, like, she thinks that, like, Adam doesn't have time for, he
mhm.
doesn't care, you know?
Reality definitely sets in.
Oh, yeah. Or, like, really quickly, and it makes sense, but it also makes me sad because 'cause I'm
I
like, "Oh my
know.
god," you know?
Oh,
So then Adam asks if Olive wants to get coffee, and she says no, which I was so angry about. Like, girl, just get coffee with him. He wants to get coffee with you so
literally,
badly.
and especially after he heard all these nice things, but then she's like, "It's about someone else." I'm just like, "Really,
Yeah.
Olive?" Like, God.
Yeah, I know. So then she, like, grabs her stuff, and then before she leaves, Olive asks if they're friends, and then a sad kind of expression crosses his face with that question, which, like, breaks my heart. But then he says yes. And before Olive leaves, he says on page 187, Olive, you are extraordinary. And I cannot imagine that if you told Jeremy how you feel, he wouldn't. And that's the moment that when Olive realizes that Adam thought that she liked Jeremy still, and she was convinced she was going to cry. So she quickly says goodbye and just leaves the Starbucks. And that is how chapter 11
I
ends.
can't handle it. Like, the fact that he's just, like, feeling like, "I have nothing to lose at this point," like, she doesn't like me like I like her, like, he can't even
Yeah,
help himself but tell her that he thinks she's extraordinary. Like,
I
I
know.
just
It hurts me. It
Mhm.
hurts me so much, and it's like, and obviously it hurts Olive too because she was going to cry, but it's just like, oh my god, my heart was just ripped out of my chest with this
Literally,
chapter.
literally. Okay, so I have one more chapter to discuss before we end this podcast, and there will be a part 2, obviously. So we have chapter 12. Let me give you the synopsis. Chapter 12 starts off by showing us just how much Olive is missing Adam. When Olive sees Holden and speaks with him, she learns that perhaps Adam remembered her from the bathroom after all and has been crushing on her since and received a warning about Tom. Olive has no idea what this means yet. Then, when having coffee with Anne and Malcolm, Olive discovers that she's being forced to stay with Adam during the conference coming up. Dot, 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 darn. That's what I wrote. Because I was like, oh, poor you. You're going to have to stay with him. Whatever. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
She was like so upset
Mhm.
over it that like her friends left her out, but like, I'm like, girl, like deep down I know you're excited.
She literally was just bummed about it because she was scared of like being in a room alone with him.
Yes.
So whatever. Um I love this comment on page 191 when Anne is talking about how she wants to make the STEM environment better for women because they're always around all these white men, and I was like,
Yes.
yes, go off.
Yes.
So I just love her that she's passionate about that. So then Olive gets a text from Adam about like him trying. I'm sorry. It's like she's trying. Sorry. It's like I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know why this gets to me. Adam texted Olive first about the pumpkin pie frappuccino that he's like drinking, and she's just like sitting there thinking about how much she misses him. And it's just like, it just goes to show how much of a slow burn this is. And I'm like, can we just have the burn already? Like, he's literally like, after everything that happened and how awkward it is, like, he just was like, I'm gonna drink this pumpkin pie frappuccino. Like, I don't know why that moment just
It like physically hurts me because like you can see that they think about each other so much even when they're away from each
literally.
other, and it just like
Yes!
physically hurts me.
I know. I'm just like, all you guys think about is each other. So, like, let's
Yeah.
just make this happen.
Yeah, exactly.
On page 194, I literally wrote, okay, I love Holden. Um, because he's telling Olive about how much she's noticed that like Adam has like changed or like lit up around
Yes.
Olive. And like that's so similar to like Anne saying that she notices like how Olive is different around him. And I just think it's so great that they both have these people in their life that's calling them out or like mentioning this stuff to them when it's like they almost won't let themselves recognize it. You know what I mean? And it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's so cool.
These catalysts outside of them
Mhm.
are telling them what is happening, but they're like, "No, no, no," which again is so frustrating because 'cause I'm like,
Literally.
if you just open your eyes, you could see."
Literally, oh my gosh, I'm just like, just take a second and someone be brave for one moment.
Exactly, exactly.
And then Holden gives Olive a very straightforward like warning about Tom, about like
Mhm.
Tom doing something to Olive, but also about Tom hurting or like backstabbing Adam. And I
Yeah.
just think like the fact that this was brought up again, I was just like, it made me really nervous about like what's to come because obviously, like as a reader, I'm like, that's got to be foreshadowing.
Oh, 100%, and again, too, already at this point, we were already, like, sketch. Like, he
Hmm.
was already very, very suspicious, so, like, when Holden said that, I was like, "Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Something is not gonna go right."
Exactly. What happens next is that we get the message, or like Olive finds out that she got selected to make a presentation. And she like literally wilts. Like, she does not know what to do with herself because she hates like public speaking. So first she goes
Mhm.
to her advisor and is like, I don't know what to do. And her advisor like encourages her. Then she runs to Malcolm and Anne and is freaks out to them. That's when Malcolm and Anne tell her about the whole thing about the living situation. And literally Olive is just going in circles in her brain, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to room with him, and like all of these different things. And it's just, I kind of feel for her in that moment. But like I'm also like, hee hee hee, you're gonna have to share a hotel room. Oh no, darn, whatever.
Exactly, yeah. I could definitely, like, feel her panic
Mhm,
because, again, we know that she has, like, these feelings for him and, like, she's trying to avoid it, which, like, again, she already gave her reasoning, so
mhm.
we know. But the reader in me is like, "Yes! Yes! They're sharing a room!"
I know, literally, and that's pretty much where the chapter ends, and, like, that will continue into chapter 13, but obviously, that is going to be in our Love Hypothesis Part 2 podcast episode, because there's just so much to talk about in this book that there's no
Mhm.
humanly possible way we could have fit it into one episode.
Yes. So be sure to tune in next week for part 2 of the love hypothesis
Yes.
because it gets pretty juicy. So you don't want to miss it.
I if we giggled a lot this second half of the book, I'm literally not gonna be able to function.
Oh,
Like,
same.
just a quick reminder, follow us on socials, email us, whatever, if you have comments or things that we missed with this, we'd love to hear them.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.